Hello, everyone. I'm Fozzie or Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How are you doing today, Will?
I'm doing great, Cam. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. We have a great episode for everyone today. Um, a little upsetting for our Boston Celtics fans in the audience. I know there are a lot of us, so I'm sure we were all heartbroken to see that Jayson Tatum suffered a ruptured Achilles and will be out for obviously the rest of this season and probably quite a bit of the following season, which is very unfortunate for us Celtics fans. And even Stephen A. Smith has come out here and said this is a real turning point for the Celtics, and he thinks that this will be the last time we see the Celtics line up like this, the Celtics starting five like this. And I can't say I disagree as a Boston Celtics fan. I think that's spot on. And as upsetting as it may be, I think it's good. It's good to have a little shift. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm actually kind of glad there'll be a transition here. Obviously, terrible for JT. He's done so much for this franchise. Obviously, hate to see him get injured like that, especially in a game like that where he was doing so well and where the stakes were so high. Um, and it's really too bad what happened to JT. But on a more positive note, on the night that Jayson Tatum got injured, I was in attendance at the Kendrick Lamar concert at Gillette Stadium, and honestly, it was one of, if not the best concert experience of my entire life. I've been to a fair share of concerts, and I would say that is probably my favorite of all time. A thing with hip hop concerts is that there are rappers out there who don't always rap live. They'll do pre-recorded stuff, they'll add stuff, and that's just how it is. It's more you're going to the concert for the vibe, but not Kendrick Lamar. He is rapping every single word you hear in the song, and he's just super talented. I also was able to see SZA because they were co-headlining the tour, and she was just as good as Kendrick. She's just superb performer. Her stage design, her costume design was amazing. All the dancers on stage were great. Obviously, it was a big venue, so the budget was super high. There were fireworks, there were everything. The pyrotechnics were outstanding. If you guys get a chance to go see Kendrick Lamar and SZA on a Grand National tour, I would take that opportunity. They blew me away. My jaw drops. I was very impressed with their performance. But that's enough about me, Will, because we have some really big, important things we have to dig into today. And I'll let you give your thoughts on this first. Yeah, have you had a chance to watch the Superman trailer?
I haven't seen the most recent one, but I have seen the first one.
I want to know, Will, how do you think this movie is going to be any good?
I would say I'm still in unknown mode about that right now. I mean, anything that James Gunn directs, I definitely will pay attention to it because I thought James Gunn did just a superb job with the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. But
Yeah,
this is not James Gunn directing Guardians of the Galaxy. This is James Gunn directing a different movie, and we've seen certain directors do a great job with, like, for instance, the Russo brothers do a great job with their Marvel projects, don't do the best job with their non-Marvel projects. So it's like, on one hand, like, I'm definitely giving this project focus and attention because James Gunn is the director, but I also want to see how he does in a non Guardians of the Galaxy world. So I would say, for me, what's gonna make, like, for me, I'm just at a point where I don't want to see the same formulaic thing with superheroes where just a hero gets knocked down and then gets back up and has to defeat a villain. Like, I just feel that storyline has been done so many times to where I'm only willing to sit through it if it's done well or if the movie puts, like, a fresh spin on it that hasn't been done before. So I would say what's gonna make me like this superhero movie is if it feels fresh and original from the same formulaic format we've seen with these movies so many times now.
When you say you want this typical, how you mentioned there that there's a typical story. When you say you want it to be well done, what does that mean? What boxes does it have to check for it to be well done?
I would say they've got to check the well written, well acted, well directed boxes. Like for instance, um, Avengers Endgame follows the formula of these Marvel superheroes have a big villain in Thanos that they have to defeat, but that movie is emotional and it's incredibly well written, incredibly well acted, incredibly well directed. And there are these, and there's another Marvel movie, for instance, like let's take a look at Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. In that film, Ant-Man the Wasp and everybody else have to face Kang the Conqueror, who, like Thanos, is a huge threat. But that movie cannot check the well written, well acted, well directed boxes nearly as well as Avengers Endgame was able to. So yeah, like it just like in order in in order like I'm willing to sit with it if it's done like any of the great Marvel movies are done. Like you know, Avengers Endgame, Black Panther, the job that James Gunn was willing to do with the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. Like those are all movies that have heroes who have to defeat villains, but they're well written, well acted, and well directed, which is why audiences are into them.
I see what you mean, and I actually do want to touch back on that. And this is when we talk about the Thunderbolts, definitely, because that raises some questions for me. But in regards to Superman, I think it is going to be good. I have seen James Gunn do projects outside of Guardians of the Galaxy, DC project specifically. In the old DCEU, he directed, well, two projects, one of them being the show Peacemaker, which season 2 of that is coming out this August and will take place in the DCU. There'll be a whole thing about that. It'll address the universe switch. I don't know how, but it will, I guess. And that was phenomenal, hilariously written, brilliantly directed. And I also watched the movie The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn for DC, also released during the DCEU, so it's not canon to this universe right now. But that was another fantastic movie. Very funny, very well written movie. It's the signature Gunn flair with that signature James Gunn flair. Um, so, granted, those were different types of movies. They were more dark, well, not dark, more edgy comedies. And this looks to be a more dramatic. Not to say that it's like a full on drama. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it looks like it's gonna have more emotion, more seriousness than both Peacemaker and even Guardians to a point. Which honestly, I'm actually excited to see Gunn try this out. And some of the shots that we've seen, especially in the trailer that came out today, look phenomenal. It looks very well directed. And, honestly, I'll be fine. Even if this movie is terrible, I'm going to be pretty much fine with it. And that's just because they tried something different. James Gunn did something that made me feel something. He made the camera look good. That's checking a big box for me. I'll tell you that. I'd rather, probably said this before in the podcast, I'd rather watch a horrible, ridiculous, crazy movie than a movie that just bores me and makes me feel nothing. Like a random Netflix original, like the one with Millie Bobby Brown, Chris Pratt that just came out, got terrible reviews. I'd rather watch something ridiculous and horrible than that bland, overdone, over big budget movie like that. I'd rather do that any day. So, summary, yes, my hopes are it actually is my most anticipated movie of the year, and the trailer not being like a crazy trailer or anything, but it just reaffirmed that yeah, this is probably going to be a good movie. But now we got to get to the good stuff, what this episode is really about. The Thunderbolts. Now, Will, I have some questions for you.
Yeah.
So, You weren't totally positive when you texted me on the Thunderbolts. Okay, obviously I had my rebuttal there. You said this would make great podcast content. But now, hearing you talk about Superman, it does raise some questions. Does Thunderbolts not check the acting, writing, direction, I mean, good villain box? Does it not check all those boxes? If so, what doesn't it check? I feel like this is the prime Marvel movie to check all of these boxes. It's an ensemble cast, so it's able to have all these characters interact together really naturally. Chemistry's off the charts, I feel like, and I don't want to go into my full review now because I want to hear your response here, but I feel like it checks all the boxes. So what is it lacking?
I would say for I would say for me, I wasn't wild about all of the comedy in the film. I would say some of the Red Guardians lines in particular, I would say they just kind of made that character out to be pretty much a joke, and
I think
I
that's
just
what that
didn't.
character is.
Yeah, like I
I
get that
think
that's I
everyone in
get
the movie is aware of
right.
it.
I get that that's what they were going for, but it just wasn't it just wasn't really my comedy style. And then there are characters like I know Florence Pugh's character. I know the Winter Soldier as a character, but there are like a bunch of other characters that they brought in who I like who I just didn't know as, as well, had kind of forgotten about. I don't know why they promoted Taskmaster to be in the movie and then just killed her off in the snap of a finger like that. I thought that was interesting. But I guess for me, I wasn't totally wild about the comedy in the movie. It featured some characters that I just wasn't that familiar with. It kind of forgotten about, and it had them have to defeat this big evil villain, which we had seen many times before. And I personally, like, I've seen that in these Marvel movies so many times that I would rather watch a show like Daredevil Born Again that's street level, different from what Marvel has typically done. They what I appreciated about Daredevil Born Again is I feel like they allowed us to see Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk just as regular people sometimes, just as Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk, and not just as Daredevil and Kingpin all the time. I just thought it played with the formula and was fresh. So I guess in this Thunderbolts movie, you have this group of people who have to defeat this big villain. I've seen that multiple times before, whereas just the type of gritty street level show that Daredevil Born Again was, I don't see that in the MCU as often, and for me, I would rather see more of that right now.
You know, I'd argue two things. One of which is that I'd argue the characters are similar. The character work is similar to that of Daredevil. I feel like this Marvel movie is one of the most character-driven Marvel movies. I feel like the entire story of this movie is around people and flaws in people. So it doesn't make sense for say it's not. I mean, and I'll also say that I think that this threat is different than every threat in the MCU. I think when you think of an MCU final battle, whatever, villain, you think of this evil army, this evil mastermind. No, there was no evil mastermind. Not at all. Actually, it the real final fight was a conversation. It was a talk. It was a talking to. They lost the fight. They knew that. So in the most creative final act in MCU history, they just didn't do that. They just talked it out. So that I don't understand how you can argue that that's the same as every other Marvel movie. I feel like that in itself should be enough to separate it from every project Marvel has released.
Mhm.
And I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a good point there. I guess I don't know. Maybe it's just for me at this point. I've just seen so many Marvel movies that I'm just more into the stuff like Daredevil Born Again right now. So I think you bring up a good point. Maybe it's just more your thing than mine right now.
I think
Who
at the end
knows?
of the day, that could be it because I've
That
seen a
could be
lot
it.
of.
Yeah.
I think I've seen both sides, of course,
Right.
and I want to be honest. I getting more into my review now.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this movie. I thought the chemistry between all of the actors was outstanding. I thought what they did was with Taskmaster was actually pretty funny, and I thought, I mean, everyone kind of knew it was gonna happen, but it was a very creative way to handle that. I mean, creative in the sense that no one saw it coming, right? And or I mean, and after the trailers, you kind of saw it coming. But in the marketing, if you're just looking at the posters, you wouldn't see it coming. Is what I'm trying to say here. And I thought that was creative. I thought Yelena's story arc was fantastic. I thought John Walker was hilarious. Probably the standout for this movie, to be honest, was John Walker. Um, and I hadn't seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier in years, and his character still worked for me. So props to Wyatt Russell for that. Son of Kurt Russell, which I kind of just recently learned, and that's really something. Especially now, them both they've both been in the MCU now, so that's really cool. Um, I thought the direction was phenomenal, the cinematography great, the score, wow. The score is done by the people who have worked on Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is an Oscar-winning film. So it makes sense that the score would be good. Um, yeah, overall, very happy with this. I don't want to say the MCU was back, but it looks like it's headed in the right direction. Speaking of the MCU, Avengers Doomsday started filming, and re- reports have it that it started filming without a finished script. Have you heard this, Will?
I haven't. That's quite concerning.
It is concerning. Two things could be happening. One, they could be hiding the script from the actors, which is very, very possible. Two, it could have just been blown out of proportion. I'm sure they're doing rewrites as any normal movie does, right? I mean, I feel like that's not a crazy thing. But not having a finished script and just going straight into such a big production, I just don't think that's a possibility. And I if it is the truth, that's very concerning, especially because we're supposed to be getting our first look at San Diego Comic Con in July, which isn't that far away right now.
No.
So I think the biggest possibility is that they're just not um, letting the actors have full access to their scripts because we've seen incidents with people like Tom Holland giving, I don't know, a little bit too much away. And I guess Marvel learns from their mistakes. They don't want leaked scripts. They don't want actors saying anything. And to a point with a movie of this proportion, it does make sense. I'll be honest. I will say I am eagerly, eagerly anticipating Doctor Doom, Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom. I mean, we've discussed this before, but now that we're over the shock of him playing Doctor Doom, do you think he's gonna do a good job? Do you think it's gonna be a good character. That should be what's important right now. I think we're past. Oh, it's Robert Downey Jr. Now we're moving more towards, is he gonna be good as Doctor Doom though? What do you think? Well,
I think Robert Downey Jr. is a great actor, but I am conflicted about him playing Doctor Doom. If he had never been in the MCU before and they cast him as Doctor Doom, I'd be like, awesome, great choice. But I'm just worried about watching Doctor Doom on screen, knowing he's being played by Robert Downey Jr. and not being able to get out of my head, wait, this is the same guy who played Iron Man in the MCU for 11 years, and now he's back playing this different character. So I think it could work, but I also have some concerns, and I think it could just feel weird seeing Robert Downey Jr. play a totally different character than we were used to seeing him play in the MCU for 11 years. And then in terms of the movie as a whole, I just feel with the Russo brothers, it's so hard to catch lightning in a bottle twice, and I feel they just hit such highs with Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame that I think it'll be impossible to ever top those heights again. And not that the Infinity War and Endgame cast didn't have a lot of people, but there are just so many people in this Avengers Doomsday movie, whether it's members of the old Avengers, Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, X-Men. There's just so many people to where I'm worried that the cast is just going to be totally overcrowded, and they're basically going to have to put certain characters in the forefront, and move others to the back. And I feel like in the Infinity Saga, Tony Stark was the heart of that saga. Like I feel the heart of the entire Infinity Saga was Iron Man and that character, and it was all leading to the moment where he sacrifices himself to defeat Thanos. And I just feel for this Doomsday movie, the Avengers are scattered all over the place in different places. I don't know how they're all gonna come together. I don't think the Avengers roster is as strong now as it was in the past. And yeah, I don't feel they have a heart. I don't think there's one character who's the heart of the multiverse saga like Tony Stark was for the Infinity Saga. So this movie could turn out to be good. It is Robert Downey Jr. It is
Russo brothers.
It
Yeah.
is the Russo brothers, but we've seen in the past, for instance, I thought Ghostbusters Afterlife was a great movie. That's everything I could ask for out of a Ghostbusters movie. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, I can't say the same thing. I thought that was a sequel that could have been good, but didn't end up being there. I thought the pieces were there, but they just didn't execute. So I hope Doomsday will turn out to be good, but I have some major concerns right now.
Yeah, as do I. Now that I think about it, well, let's look at the Infinity Saga, right? Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Captain America 1, 2, 3. But let's look here. It's the Multiverse Saga.
Yeah.
We don't do we have that?
No, I don't think we do.
And I haven't, I literally just thought of this now. Like, as you were talking, that just clicked in my mind. That's not good.
No, it's not.
Because part of the reason, obviously, like you said, that Infinity War and Endgame were so good is because these characters were set up. These characters are set up in theory as well, but we haven't gotten more than one movie with the same character. Shang-Chi,
No.
an important character, hasn't appeared in 4 years on screen. Right? That's not good. And I mean, I get it. They want to introduce more characters and they're going a little quicker here. But we're almost at the grand finale. They said at the end of this, they're rebooting the universe to a point. So what? Are we just gonna end like this? We haven't gotten a sequel to any of these movies. We've gotten sequels. I guess you call them legacy sequels at this point. Like Thor 4, this feels like a retirement film, and Captain America, obviously Captain America movie, but It's a rebooted Captain America movie, and also it was horrible. And let's look at Ant-Man, worst movie in the series, and also the only Ant-Man movie in this series. And I guess we have had 1 and 2, but they feel they feel totally different. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania serves no purpose. It serves no purpose anymore. Unless they do something with what Scott learned in Quantumania and Secret Wars, or whatever, it serves no purpose because Kang's gone. Right? That's not going to be an issue. The ending is essentially them just fearing Kang. What he's not. That's not an issue anymore because he's gone. Pointless movie. Didn't have to exist. And obviously we've hated that movie quite a bit here on the podcast, but I mean it's just the truth. When that's what happens, it didn't have to exist. And I guess Marvel can't see the future, but still, it's issues like that. And now that I think about it, the only argument you can make, I guess, is Miss Marvel to the Marvels. But the thing is, the Marvels, unfortunately, is literally the worst Marvel movie ever made.
It's awful.
It's atrocious.
Yeah.
Really bad. I can watch Thor: Love and Thunder. You know what? I've rewatched it, and you know what? It's not good, but I'm like, when I watch it, I can laugh. I can have fun with it. I can have fun enough. If I don't think about it too much as an MCU fan, casual moviegoer, it's a fun little space odyssey. You know, cool. I like Jane Foster being there. Quantumania, I don't think the same goes, but if I put myself in someone else's shoes and I put that on, I would think it's not a bad movie. Plus, a phenomenal Kang performance, right? And a Bill Murray cameo. That's fun. I can't watch the Marvels. It's so bad. They try to set something up with Nick Fury and Secret Invasion, which again, terrible show. They try to set something up with him in that show. Then they butcher his character in the next movie. That's ridiculous. I actually, now that I think about it, I can't believe Nick Fury has been in 2 multiverse projects. It doesn't even feel like that. His impact has been so small simply because everything he's been in has been terrible. And obviously, we have MCU rants every time on this podcast. But these are just some of the problems I have. And anyway, I want to wrap up this episode, Will.
Yep. Great.
With something I think you're going to be more annoyed about it than me.
Okay.
Karate Kid Legends is currently sitting at a 6.5
Okay.
on IMDb. That's not good. Let's read some reviews.
Okay.
This Karate Kid movie is okay, but unfortunately, the writers just went with the most classic combination of cliches. Some examples without spoilers, just what you see in the trailer. I mean, it's a lot of it's what you see in the trailer. A boy moves to a new city, is bullied, meets a girl, girl is boy, bully is the main villain, the main boss. It's formulaic, and I guess, isn't that what we figured, right? I mean, obviously there are some Karate Kid fans out there who did like it, right? You know, who have had a fun time with it, but, well, I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, but I think we're in for a disappointing movie. What are your thoughts on these negative reviews for this movie?
Yeah, I'm in 100% agreement with you. I absolutely think we're in for a disappointing movie. I have started preparing myself for that ever since the second trailer came out, and maybe on an upcoming episode we can dive deep into the second trailer because we haven't had a discussion about the second trailer on this podcast yet. So maybe we can do that on one of our upcoming episodes. But for me, what's making me most concerned about this movie is in the second trailer and other teasers and TV spots and different things I've seen for this movie, I see them doing a lot of things where Daniel and Mr. Han, they're going for comedic effect with the interactions between those two characters, or they're having the characters in a disagreement or seemingly not getting along. Like for example, like I saw one teaser where Daniel says to Mr. Han, "Don't you think you should go a little less hard on him?" And Mr. Han said his opponent is not going to go easy on him, so why should I? And then I saw another one where Li Fong is fighting in a tournament and he does some move and Daniel says to Mr. Han, "I taught him that." And Mr. Han says to Daniel, "No, I taught him that." And then I saw another thing where Daniel and Mr. Han are sparring with each other, and Li Fong says, "What happened to two branches, one tree?" And Mr. Han's response is, "One branch stronger than the other." So let me say this. If Cobra Kai hadn't literally just done this storyline with Daniel and Johnny for 6 seasons, I would be like, okay, like I'm willing to sit through Daniel and Mr. Han learning how to work together and learning to open themselves up to a different style and learning how to combine karate and kung fu together. If Cobra Kai had never come out, I would have been more okay with it. But the reason I'm so frustrated is that I'm like, when I'm seeing these comedic, competitive interactions between Daniel and Mr. Han, I'm like, we literally just saw that for 6 seasons of Cobra Kai with Daniel and Johnny. I don't want to see it again. Daniel's character should be progressed beyond that at this point. So, I mean, yes, I mean, will it be formulaic and will that be a problem? I think absolutely. But for me, it's my fear that Daniel and Mr. Han is just going to be a rehash of the arc we just saw with Daniel and Johnny in Cobra Kai for 6 seasons. That is what is frustrating me most, and that is what has me most concerned about this movie.
I'm gonna add to your list of concerns. Well, you know what I've heard? You know what the word on the street is about this movie?
What's that?
Daniel LaRusso has very little screen time.
I've heard he shows up an hour in.
Yeah. Are you serious? You're just gonna market a movie with these two characters as like the main characters? And well, he's gonna show up an hour in? I'm not watching the movie in the theater. That's just I'm not. No. There's no. I am not watching Karate Kid Legends in the movie theater. This movie has slashed my interest by being horrible. Even if the reviews suddenly go up, no. I just watched Cobra Kai. I just watched a painfully average season of Cobra Kai, might I add. And what, now I'm expected to watch this painfully mediocre movie, if not bad movie? No. As much as I love supporting movies in theaters, this isn't the movie to do it. Go support a better movie. I'm sure there are going to be movies that come out that week that are way better than Karate Kid Legends. I'll go see one of them. There is not a chance that I can go see that movie in the theater. And I said this from the beginning. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna think. I'm gonna see it with an open mind. If the reviews are terrible, the trailers get worse. No, it's just not gonna happen. Karate Kid fan, it's a shame, but that's the way it is. And that's a very somber way to wrap up this episode of the Everything Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Will, thank you so much for joining me as always, and we'll see you next time.